What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Movies That Make You podcast, where movies are more than just entertainment, they're a catalyst for meaningful conversations. I'm Jonathan Sprang, and I go by Sprang, and most weeks we dive into movies to watch in preparation for a new release hitting theaters. But we don't stop there. We also discuss the morals, the deeper ideas, and the life lessons these films have to offer. Woman in the Yard drops on Friday and looks horrifying. It's a story of a mother and her two kids, and there's a woman that appears in the yard, and she's going to eat them once nightfall hits. Totally scary. The trailers are incredible. So in order to prep for that, we're going to talk about our top 5 black-led horror films. We've got POPpaGoss on the show. We also have another special guest who is Popalicious Popheads on YouTube. And we're going to have a great conversation today. We hope you'll jump over to our website and see all of our links. It's bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. That's bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. There you'll find all of our links to our Instagram, to each podcast stream, whether it's Apple or Spotify. You'll also find our Letterboxd link, which highlights the lists of movies that make you laugh, movies that make you cry, movies that make you scream, and everything in between. Before we dive into this week's episode, though, let's take a look at the next 4 weeks on the Movies That Make You podcast. Next week, the boys are going to be back, and we're going to do a fun compilation of films in preparation for watching a Minecraft movie. It drops that week. We watched Pixels with Adam Sandler. We watched the Lego Movie with Chris Pratt. And we watched Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. Those 3 movies felt like they fell in the same genre, have the same kind of feel that they're going for with the Minecraft movie. The week after that, we're doing a one-off episode not tied to a release in theaters for Michael Bay. Grayson's going to be back on the episode. He joined us for our Nosferatu Prepisode, but he's going to be on the episode talking about all the Michael Bay films that he's seen and what they've meant to him. The week after that, we're going to have our good friend Coach Nick back on the episode. We're going to be talking about Ryan Coogler films. He's got a new movie called Sinners that's dropping in theaters that week featuring Michael B. Jordan. So we're going to talk about 3 of his previous films, including Fruitvale Station, Creed, and Black Panther. The week after that, we're going to be prepping for Andor Season 2. I know most of the time we're talking about movies, but we've got Scott Raymond going to be back on the show. He wants to talk Star Wars. I don't have a problem with that. So we're going to talk about it that week in preparation for one of the best Star Wars series that Disney has put out. Hope those episodes excite you. So without further ado, let's get to the podcast. We are back with another episode of the Movies That Make You podcast. I'm Sprang, and I'm joined by a couple of guys. POPpaGoss, you've met before, and so he's joining us, and then one of his good friends, Tommy, who is Popalicious Popheads over on YouTube, and he's joined us today for this conversation, and I'm super stoked. Tommy, how are you doing, man?
I am outstanding. I'm just glad to be here with you all, and let's get into this horror, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. Things going all right for you, Josh?
Yeah, man. Everything is peachy.
Good. I'm doing all right as well. Had a good, busy day today already. But yesterday I got to chill, hang out with the fam. You got any family, Tommy? You got any kids or anything?
I have a daughter. She is 29.
All right.
And that's it.
Nice.
I've got 4 boys between me and my wife. So that's kind of the impetus of the podcast. Is a lot of times most of the episodes I'm talking with the boys about different movies that we're watching together as a family, and they're giving their insights and stuff. But then when it's a topic it's a movie maybe that they're not necessarily of the age to watch it, I'll usually have guests on. My wife will do some with us, and then POPpaGoss has been kind of my horror go-to guy. So he's been on a couple of episodes, but man, so excited to have you on the show today, man. Excited to talk to you about these stuff. So before we jump into the topic of the day, though, one of the things we like to do with the guest is just kind of ask, what is it that got you into films? How far back does it go, and what's kind of your favorite type of genres?
My intro to horror was pretty much from my mom. My mom is a horror movie fanatic. Any type of horror movie, or from B-horror to the best horror, she wants to watch it all. And ever since I was young, she would always take me to the movies with her. And I remember seeing Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and The Shining in the movie theaters with my mom. And like, ever since then, ever since I was, this was maybe around 13, she started to introduce me into a whole lot of horror stuff. So my love from horror comes directly from my mom. Even to this day, we were just watching horror movies just the other day when I went over there.
That's awesome, man. That's so exciting. I mean, that's kind of what I love to do with my kids, is introduce them to the things I love. I say, when you love somebody, you want to get them to love the things that you love and share the things. So that's an incredible story. I know POPpaGoss has a similar story with his dad, right?
Yeah, I mean, as far as horror goes, my I think the first movie I ever saw horror wise was probably my dad showed me Halloween when I was pretty young, and then The Shining. But I mean, obviously, The Shining. It was like every year on like TBS or some of the local channels, they'll play like edited versions of the horror movies. So I remember he showed me The Shining. So like Shining, Jaws, and Halloween are like three of my all-time favorite horror movies, and it's mainly because those are three that I was introduced to when I was really young, and they had an effect on me. And then years later, I appreciated them for a whole different reason, just filmmakers or who directed them, and that like that has gone with me and my love for cinema and stuff. So it's kind of changed over the years. But when I was little, I mean, those were the first horror movies. Nightmare on Elm Street, like Tommy said, I remember that was like the first movie that genuinely scared me. Like just because we all have nightmares, we all have dreams, and the fact that you like can't get out is like insane. Plus, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger is just so iconic, and he just did such a great job with that first one. And I'm a huge Wes Craven fan, obviously, so that kind of got me jump started into horror and then to films in general. So
it's awesome. Yeah, for me, my love of film came from my parents. It really took off when my mom and dad got married, and we would go to the movies every weekend. So like it was like a thing. So I really got into film just in general. But they weren't horror geeks. They like really shied away from it growing up, and so they were a little bit more conservative Christian. And so I didn't get exposed to horror movies until I was in college, but it was the fact that it wasn't allowed, that kind of had this intrigue and this kind of nostalgia, like just I want to see it because I'm not allowed to see it at first. And so then like my once I got to college, it was like, let me pick one of these series and I'm going to go through them. So it was Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween. So each Halloween season, I would try and pick one and go through and just go up to the Blockbuster and grab them. My love of horror is beyond just those kind of slasher films.
Yeah.
But it still holds a place in my heart. Like Scream was kind of the first one I saw my senior year of high school, and it was like, oh my goodness, okay, I like this. This is a really unique take. I want to go see the originals, right? So that's kind of what kind of kicked it off. And so I love horror. My wife does not. Every once in a while, I mean, she'll go see them with me and she'll watch them with me. October, we always do a horror movie every night of October. It's just like that Halloween like kind of celebration. And she'll suffer through that with me, but she's actually come across the line a little bit. I was looking at upcoming episodes, and I was like, I need to know which episodes you want to do and which episodes I need to get a guest. And I said, how about The Conjuring? She's like, I like The Conjuring. I'm like, all right, let's do that episode. So it's funny because she has the things that gravitate to, but then it's also it's not necessarily her favorite that she would choose every time. But anyway, it's good stuff. Are there any other films that kind of really resonated with you? That you could share about?
There was the movie, I don't remember the year, but my dad was in the military, and we were stationed in Cuba, and we went to the drive-in one night, and there was this movie called Manitou that had came out, and my mom and dad, being horror fans, took me with them to go see Manitou. And man, this was the first movie that really freaked me out. Because like this lady, she like got pregnant and like the baby was on her back, growing from her back and all this craziness. And then they had to have this medicine man Indian come in and try to help her. And man, when I saw this movie and I saw that girl being possessed or whatever it was that she was in this movie, Manitou probably started everything at that time. Because that's one of the earliest times that I can think about seeing a horror movie. And I was fairly young when I saw that movie. And I had to have my mom and dad come into my room, look under the bed, open the closet door, make sure there's nothing in there. Because that movie really, really freaked me out. It's an old movie, and it's the special effects in it were like really cheesy and stuff like that. Because I watched it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and when I watched it again, I was like, "Why in the world was I even scared about this? It was kind of corny." But That's some of that like early like cinema when like the special effects aren't like the things that we have now.
Right.
Like they had to use prosthetics and all this other stuff like puppets and different things like that. Like I really like watching those older movies that doesn't have like all of the like the cool AI and the cool things of that nature. I like seeing some of those cheesy moments, even in the thing. We all know that head wasn't around saying wasn't looking like real. Like if they did something like that with AI now, it would look probably perfect. But back then, that was all we had. And those things, like the nostalgia from those,
Mm-hmm.
like those directors and the producers and the artists who actually helped create some of those characters and bring them to life. Like
Yeah.
I really don't think that they really get a lot of props because there's a whole lot of older movies that are out there that people think are really corny and cheesy, but they're really, really cool, especially if you think about the time that they were made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Manitou was 1978, and you know who starred in that movie? I've never seen it. I just pulled it up, but Tony Curtis, Jamie Lee Curtis's dad.
That movie
Wow.
freaked me out. I'm telling you, when I was a kid, that if you watch it, you're gonna be like, I know why Tommy was freaked out by this movie.
Yeah.
The poster looks vaguely familiar from working at the video store, but I don't remember us ever getting. I don't even know. I'm sure it's on DVD somewhere, but I can't even see if you can like stream. It says you can rent it on like Amazon and stuff, but yeah, Tony Curtis. So Small World. They all
Yeah.
share the horror realm, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, Tony
Absolutely.
and Jamie.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, cool, man. So, like, we're gonna jump into this. We've got a movie coming out this Friday called "Woman in the Yard," and it's
Yeah,
just an incredible, incredible looking movie. I saw a trailer for it a couple times last night, and I was just like, "Oh, this looks so scary." But it's only rated PG-13, so I might take a couple kids with me to go see it. But because this is a film with a lot of black actors, I wanted to basically have a conversation around black horror films, because mainly, like, if I were even to go back to like Scream 2, like the cameraman's
Yeah.
like, I don't last in these films. Like, if you've seen these kind of films before, I don't last in them. But there's been like it feels like with some of Jordan Peele stuff, there's been this kind of really big kind of growth of black cinema and black horror. And I just wanted to have a conversation about what are these films that are out there, because when you go and look at them, there's a lot out there that maybe you just don't kind of gravitate to and you think of as being that type of horror film. But I kind of wanted to have this conversation. Let's kind of kick off our top 5 list. POPpaGoss, why don't you go first, and then Tommy, you go second. I'll go last. What's your 5th rated black horror film?
So I went with The People Under the Stairs by Wes Craven. Really awesome, underrated film. It's about a young boy who breaks into a home of his landlord's for where his family lives, but he breaks into the landlord's house and he discovers that they have all these like mutilated like children and boys, and they keep them under the stairs. I mean, they're still alive, but they're kind of mutated, and they've done horrific things to a lot of them. And it's just a really creepy movie. Especially, I can't imagine when it first came out. I'm sure it was pretty terrifying, just because it's kind of grainy. There's not a lot of like light and stuff. It's kind of a darker film, but I picked that one mainly because of the star of the movie, Brandon Adams. At the time, he was a child actor, and he still is considered a child actor because he doesn't do a lot these days. But he was in like the Mighty Ducks movies, and I believe he was he was in The Sandlot. He was the only black kid in The Sandlot. He was like the main kid, but he was real popular. And then he's most famous. He was Zeke in the Smooth Criminal video with Michael Jackson. He's the little boy, the little black kid who like dances. So that kid was the one who starred in The People Under the Stairs. So it was kind of funny. I went back through, and I don't know if this is how he got discovered by Wes Craven or not, but I noticed on his IMDb he was in a movie for Disney. Used to do these. I don't know if they were like the equivalent of like the Disney original movies that came out in the 90s and stuff, but they had this thing called The Magical World of Disney.
Oh yeah, like on
Yeah,
Saturday nights or Sunday nights or whatever.
yeah. So
Yeah.
they would do they were like TV movies basically, but it was kind of the equivalent of what the 90s kids grew up with the Disney original movies. But there was a movie that Brandon Adams was in, but Wes Craven actually directed one for the Wonderful World of Disney first in 1986. He did this movie called like The Case Breakers or something. Noah Hathaway from Neverending Story starred in it, and it looked, I never even heard of it. I just saw it pop up. But then 3 years later, Brandon Adams was in a movie called Polly. And you want to talk about a strong black cast? Polly had like the actress who played Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show,
Mm.
Felicia, what is her name? Felicia Rashad. And then it also had who was the other one it had? Marion Harewood from 8 Ball and Full Metal Jacket. Keisha Poyman, who was also on the Cosby Show, she played
Mhm.
Rudy. So I mean, and then Ken Page, Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas, was also in that movie. It was just a hidden gem. I was going through IMDb looking at Brandon Adams' thing, but I saw they were both Wonderful World of Disney productions. So I don't know if Wes just so happened to find Brandon through that or a mutual friend or what, but perfect casting. He carries this movie on his back. He's just a young child in this movie, and I think it's really special because not only were there not a lot of horror movies that even had co-stars that were black actors and actresses, there was not many children actors for sure. And I think this was kind of like the first real horror movie that had like a kid actor who starred in it and was also black. Like that is so mind-boggling. But he did a tremendous job, and I think that's really cool. And I love Wes Craven, so I like that. I like to think Wes Craven was like, yeah, let me give you a shot, and you didn't disappoint. And it's just a really under the radar one. Jordan Peele, they've been announced for I think the last 8 years, 10 years, but they're supposed to be making a new rebooted version of People Under the Stairs, but
Mm.
it's listed on IMDb, but they keep saying it's going to be a TV series produced by Jordan Peele or directed by. So who knows? But we could possibly get a remake, which would be kind of cool to update that. But yeah, I just think that's really cool that a young black kid was able to like star in that, and then he became more known for like Disney roles and stuff throughout that. But he has that one. It's become kind of a cult classic now, which is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy, have you seen that one?
Yes. Yes, I have. I seen it a long time ago, and I actually need to rewatch it because I really liked it. Because actually, one of my girlfriends or ex-girlfriends turned me on to that movie. She had it on DVD, and her parents would go to work, and we would sit there and watch People Under the Stairs, The Brood, and all of this stuff like that. So yeah, I'm familiar with it.
That's awesome. I can't remember how it happened to be on my list, but I had it on my letterbox list for a while, and then we ended up being able to watch it during our October horror film watching last year. So I just saw it just last year, and I agree with you, Josh. I mean, it's really solid acting, really scary story, creepy story, and I think everybody did a great job on that. So that's pretty amazing. Very cool. Tommy, why don't you go? What you got? Number 5.
Number 5, okay. My number 5 is a little bit different. I'm going with Friday the 13th, A New Beginning.
Okay.
Nice.
And the reason that I chose that one is because of 2 actors that were in that. Dudley, who was on Different Strokes back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
he was in that movie. I think it's Shavar Ross is his name. For him to be a kid in the Friday the 13th movie, like, he really played a big role throughout like that whole Friday the 13th movie. And to have this little black kid who would normally get killed in the first 15 minutes. Now you have this little black kid who's made it through actually the entire movie. And the second actor that I was thinking about with that movie is Miguel Nunez, who played his big brother Damon. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, Damon didn't make it. But
Yeah.
he had like very funny parts in the movie. And like when like prime example when he was in the porta potty and his girlfriend was messing with him and stuff like that, but then she left and he finally got by Jason and stuff like that. So like Dudley from that movie, from Friday the 13th, The New Beginning, and Demon, his older brother. I really dig
Yeah.
both of them, and I don't think that they really get enough props about that movie or for that movie.
That's a great call out, man. I think for me, in rewatching Friday the 13th, I don't think there's a lot of people that give that second trilogy much credit. Like New Beginning and then following the two following that, where you're following I can't remember the kid's name, but he's like the 80s actor that's now like a musician or
Corey
whatever.
Feldman.
Corey Feldman.
Corey
Yeah,
Feldman.
it's following his kind of story as he's growing up and kind of still facing Jason for 3 movies. It's like, that's a really cool story arc to have. And I think kicking it off in that first one, New Beginning, that's the one that they're at like the camp, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Mental hospital
Yep.
camp or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
so
Love
good.
it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
That's awesome. All right. So mine is going to be, my number 5 is Blade. Do y'all have that on your
Okay.
lists at all?
I almost put it on my list, but then I substituted it out for
Okay.
a different one. But
I
yeah, that's a
almost
great.
did too. I almost did, but I put something else in its spot.
Yeah,
Cool.
Blade's awesome though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
definitely.
me, I remember going, it clicks 2 boxes for me. I always loved like vampires. Like if I was going to look at like those, those classic horror icons and like which one I liked the most of the like werewolves or vampires or Frankenstein, it was always vampires. I think there's something about them that's just, it's cool. It's eerie because they can kind of live in society and not be known, but then they can kind of basically sneak up on you in the night and take you out and all that stuff. But that's what's great about Blade, was just the combination of this kind of vampire lore, but then also because he was born in the midst of his mom having been bitten, it's like he's living the daywalker. He's living in both worlds, but because his mom was murdered, he's wanting to take out vampires. That's his mission in life. And I don't think a lot of people recognize how this is a Marvel character, and it was before the MCU, and how
Yeah.
big it was that they got this on this movie made.
Yeah.
I still remember to this day, I still have chills thinking about the first scene when they're in the dance
Oh my
club, and then
God,
all of a
it's so
sudden
good.
the blood starts spewing
Yeah.
out. I mean, it's just like, it's so iconic, and I
Yeah.
think, Wesley Snipes getting to reprise that role for Deadpool and Wolverine was just the best,
Yes.
the best comeback ever. So I know they've got talks to do a remake. Mahershala Ali is attached, but they've had trouble getting it off the ground with different director changes and things like that. So hopefully it'll get made. I feel like it's a great cast, but we'll see. So what y'all think about Blade?
Yeah, Blade's awesome. I like what you just said. That I was gonna say, my main thing that I always think about when I think of that movie is the opening scene, because it's maybe hands down one of like the coolest opening scenes ever.
Right.
And the techno music, and like total, came out in the '90s, but total like
Mm-hmm.
everybody was going to raves and all that stuff. But like just imagining seeing that in person, people just on drugs and like freaking out. There's a guy killing all these vampires. There's blood everywhere. Like I just the whole shot, everything they did about that movie was so cool. And Stephen Dwarf, like he kind
Yeah.
of disappeared for a long. He still shows up occasionally, but he was so good as the villain in that movie, and he kind of just like faded away after that, which is unfortunate. And then
Yeah.
obviously Wesley Snipes was huge in the 80s and 90s. So, like, of course, there's nobody back then you're going to cast as Blade that fits that more perfect than Wesley Snipes. So, I saw, I think on Instagram yesterday or the day before, that they are moving forward with the reboot, part of the MCU. But they said Mahershala and Kevin Feige have agreed on a script at least. So, they're at least looking, but they said this movie got announced like 5 years ago, so we'll see if it happens. But yeah, I hope it does, because Blade, the original Blade, is so good. So
Any other thoughts, Tommy, on Blade?
Man, I
You
just
want to
have to
share?
piggyback on everything that y'all said. Blade was just it was fire. I mean, just there's nothing more to say about it. It was fire from beginning to end. It was fire. And I love the fact that they had a black leading actor play that role. And I think at that time, I don't think, like Josh said, I don't think that you could have found a better actor to play that role other than Wesley, because Wesley at that time, he was major at that time. And then after that, he blew up more too. So yeah, man, Wesley is just the embodiment of Blade. It's like one of those characters. Nobody else should play this role except for Wesley.
Yeah.
One of those characters. That's
that
how
was
I feel about that.
funny nod he did, or joke he did in Deadpool Wolverine too. He said something about
There's only one Blade, and
there's
then
only one Blade.
he kind of breaks the fourth
That
wall
was
and looks at the camera.
that was a cute. Well, and it's funny because like everything I've heard of Wesley Snipes outside of Hollywood is like he's kind of like that. He's got a big ego and all that stuff. So like I could totally see him saying something like that anyway. But yeah, Blade. And then a lot of people don't realize like Blade 2 was directed by Guillermo del Toro, which is like
Mm-hmm.
he's one of my favorites. So Blade 2 is also very underrated. And then Trinity obviously is like whatever. It's got some fun stuff, but it's not the greatest. So we'll see if they do a reboot. I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, they did. Ryan Reynolds played a character in that, and I've heard it said that they actually wrote that to be a Deadpool type character, but
Yeah.
they didn't have the rights to Deadpool, so
Well,
they
you
just
can
kind of
tell. Yeah, you
yeah.
can totally tell. I mean, that movie Ryan Reynolds is nothing but a smart aleck the whole time. So, like you
Yeah.
can. I mean, it had a good cast like Jessica Biel and even some
Hmm.
of the like the effects were really cool too. But yeah, just the story was just not
Yeah.
strong.
Cool. All right, Josh, how about number 4?
Oh, number 4, I'm doing a horror sci-fi movie. It's called Attack the Block. And this movie, so that for all of you who've never seen it, it's a very under the radar. Like a lot of people, when I tell them about that movie, they've never even heard of it, especially when it first came out. Like I remember the video store we very rarely got it traded in on Blu-ray or DVD or whatever. But when it did come in, I would always recommend people rent it because like they would always ask for horror, sci-fi, whatever. So I was always like, watch this movie right now because it's amazing and nobody knows about it. So basically, it takes place in South London. There's a gang of teens, and they end up trying to defend their little neighborhood from an alien invasion, basically. And it's got really cool practical effects. The aliens, you don't see them a ton on screen, but like when they are on screen, you can tell it's like practical and not heavy CGI or anything. But this movie was really important because this was our introduction to Mr. John Boyega. He played the lead character Moses, and obviously he went on. That movie got him a bunch of roles in the science fiction genre, mainly Star Wars Episode 7 as Finn. He was also he became a fan favorite on the newer trilogy. And he's just a tremendous actor. He's gone on to do some really powerful movies like Detroit and he's a very talented actor who doesn't get as many roles as he should. But that was his first feature film that he ever did. He was in a TV movie, and then I think he did a short. That's where he got discovered. But yeah, this movie really gave him an opportunity to show what he's got, and it's led by pretty much an all black teenage cast at the time, and they all have their moments of like leading the charge, which is really cool. And then it obviously has some notable more famous people like Jodie Whittaker. She's not big on Doctor Who. I've never watched Doctor Who, but she's big on that. She was in Black Mirror. She's done stuff here and there, but she's in it as well as Nick Frost, Simon Pegg's BFF. He plays a
Mm-hmm.
really funny like stoner type character in the movie. Really good, but it's just a blast. It's such a fun movie. Most of it takes place in an apartment building for the most part. It's not a super long movie, but most of it takes place in there. But yeah, John Boyega, Leon Jones, Franz Drama, and Daniel Vitalis are like the main 3 or 4 teens. That are in it, and they, like I said, they do a tremendous job. And the director, Joe Cornish, he actually said he got the idea for this movie from his inspiration from watching Signs, actually. And he wondered what it would be like if Signs was in like South London and there was an invasion. So it just came to him, and he wrote the script, and it was kind of under the radar. And it's technically an independent movie, but really awesome. If you've never seen it, I would highly recommend Attack the Block.
I'm gonna have to see
Nice.
that.
Yeah, it's great. It's so good.
Yeah, I've had it on my list. I mean, mainly because I knew that that's where John Boyega kind of got his name out there, and so I added it to the list. I just haven't gotten around to watch it, so I'm gonna have to add it to this year's Oktoberfest if I don't do it before, because I've heard good things. Absolutely,
Yeah,
and
it's
it
I'm gonna
also
have to add
reminds
it to
me
me.
of like Vampires in Brooklyn,
yeah.
which is another one.
Yeah, Eddie
I
Murphy.
actually haven't watched. Well, this one's the newer one where it's kids that are trying to face off against a vampire. I can't remember.
Yeah, you're thinking of
Wait, let me think. Maybe I
it's
said it wrong.
no, it is Brooklyn, but it was Netflix original movie, I think, and it was I think it was
Yeah,
called Vampires of Brooklyn, I think is what that one was called. If I'm remembering, Vampires versus the Bronx. That's
versus
what it
the
was.
Bronx. Okay, I got
I
them
Vampires.
confused.
No,
Yeah,
I knew what you were talking about, but
yeah,
I could not think of the dang name. But yeah, no, that's another man. I didn't even think about that one. That's a really good
yeah.
one too.
I haven't
My
Anyway,
seen that.
my son was homesick during October, and so I said, why don't you watch this one? Because it was PG-13. I was working, and I kept hearing stuff like, man, that sounds cool, man. Gotta check it out, but
yeah,
I haven't gotten to watch it yet.
it's a fun one, and it's also one we can watch with kids because I think it's PG-13 like you said, and it's just not. I mean, it's not super gory or anything, but it's just a fun. That's a good one. I almost completely
Yeah,
forgot about that one. But
cool.
I didn't even
continue.
know about that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good one. It doesn't. I guess Netflix older they are, they don't pop up as much because like I wouldn't have even remembered that one if you didn't say anything. But
hmm
Netflix used to like pop up all their like original
Yeah,
content, but I haven't seen that poster pop up in a while. But that's a really good one if you guys have never seen it.
I'm gonna
yeah,
check that one out for sure.
cool, cool. All right, Tommy, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is going to be Mom with Miss
Nice. That's my
Octavia
number 8.
Spencer.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Go
Man,
for it.
that movie right there should be a cautionary tale to every single parent to know exactly who your children are interacting with. It is a movie about sheer manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And how an adult can manipulate all these kids into doing all this crazy stuff. I mean, partying, the drinking, and doing all this, and then she wants to be with one of the guys and all this other craziness because of something that happened to her back in high school that she still hasn't dealt with, but she's dealing with it with these kids. And to me, it's just scary, man. It is scary. Simply being like that could really happen in real life that's what freaks me out about it. Is like that could really happen to any one of our kids will be in high school and they want to sneak around with their friends and oh, they're this cool older lady letting us drink beer and do whatever we want to do. And hey, let's go hang out with her. So I can totally see how it's scary to be manipulated like that. And I really hope parents, like, I know it's a horror movie and some people probably laugh at it because it does have some very funny moments in the movie. But I hope you get the premise of that movie and you need to know who's hanging around with your children. I don't care. If they're in college, you still need to know who they're hanging around with.
Absolutely.
None of us want anything bad to happen to our kids. And when I saw that movie, I just thought of my daughter doing something like that. I was like, man, if something happened to my daughter, I'd be ready to kill this one. So
Yeah,
it's just simply crazy. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like
yeah.
having a person like that's like for real in the world, like that movie could probably be somebody's autobiography somewhere. Because I'm
hmm
sure like most fiction is based on the truth somewhere. So I'm pretty sure that something like this probably happened someplace and it just freaks me out how adults can be so manipulative when they don't deal with their BS that they should have dealt with years ago.
That's a great
true,
call. Great
true.
film. I know Kristen and I went and saw it while we were dating, just like blown away. Octavia Spencer was just incredible in that film. And like, you're absolutely right. Like the subtle manipulation of kids, and how easy it was for her to get them to hang out at her
Yeah,
house. And then she started kind of making that switch of what this relationship really was. And yeah, freaky, crazy, very cool.
That's a good one, Tommy.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cool. All right, my number 4 is Candyman.
Nice.
That's my
Tony,
number 3.
all right, I'll let you talk. We'll talk about it on the next round then. There you go. Cool, cool. All right, Josh, you go next for number 3.
So the next one I'd picked was Talk to Me, which came out recently. Did you guys have that on your list at all?
No, no.
No.
Okay, cool. So Talk to Me, A24 film. A group of friends discover it's mostly like a viral, like they see it on, TikTok or Instagram. They see, and I think it takes place in Australia, if I'm not mistaken, or New Zealand or something. But yeah, they discover this viral thing to basically conjure spirits through a cement hand. So there's a hand they put on a table, and then they all do this thing, and then they record it because I guess the only way it works is if they record it, and it's super crazy. It's a very intense movie for the most part. I'm not very long. It's only like an hour and a half, but like I'd say probably 50% or 45% of it is pretty intense for sure. Lots of practical effects again. A24, they're known for using low budgets and stuff. This movie was actually A24's second highest grossing box office movie, right behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, which ended up winning Best Picture a couple years ago. So yeah, it's a pretty big slot to fill, but A24, I picked this movie mainly because of the lead actress, Sophie Wilde. She's fantastic in it, does a lot of like physical acting. I mean, super creepy, super scary, but she's very good. But also because A24 has become such a huge integral part of how Hollywood runs now. Lots of Hollywood execs are, flocking to producers, directors, writers from A24 because they were the first studio that ended the strike when the writer's strike happened a couple years ago. They were the first one who just said, screw it, we're going to treat our writers and our directors the way they need to be treated. We'll pay you very well, and it'll all be good. So that I love about them. They take they're the only studio I can think of right now, besides maybe like Blumhouse occasionally, or they're definitely not the big studios. Like, they're not taking risks like this, but A24 is visionaries who know film in and out. They have something unique that is not a sequel. It's not related to any properties. And they take stuff on a small budget and they create this magic that's like, you watch an A24 film, and even if it's not your favorite one that they've put out, you can go at the end of the movie like, wow, that was really cool. The writing was very well written. The cinematography was fantastic. How they directed the actors and actresses was great. That performance was awesome. So like A24 means a lot to, and I remember when when I worked at the video store, they had just come out and they were nobodies. They had I think they had like 10 movies when I worked at the video store out at the time. And every time one would come in, I would rent it right when we got them in, because I knew it was going to probably be pretty darn good. So that's pretty awesome though. But like, Talk to Me obviously is second highest grossing, only to another movie that won Best Picture, which is pretty big deal. So Wild is fantastic. She plays terrified really, really well in this movie. The scenes where she's possessed are very terrifying, like super creepy. The way they're done, like, you have to watch it kind of turned up, kind of loud, because the sound in this movie mixed with what you're seeing makes it so scary. It's crazy. But yeah, well-made film starring a Black actress. Sign me up for that every day. Talented group of people in that movie, but I highly recommend Talk to Me for sure.
Have you seen it, Tommy?
No, I have not. Man, I'm sitting here like trying to make a mental list. I'm like, man, I gotta watch this and this.
Yeah.
Don't
worry.
stuff
I'm
that
gonna
I
make a
gotta check
list.
out.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a list, and we'll make sure everybody's aware of what the movies we talked about, so we got to check in like 6 months, say how we doing.
Know what we ought to
We catch
do?
up.
We ought to do a live viewing.
Yeah.
Everybody do a live viewing as we're
I'd
watching
love
it
to.
at the same time.
I've
That'd
been
be
wanting to
awesome.
do something like that where we obviously you can't play the movie on the screen,
Yeah,
but like, you can all watch it at the same
yeah,
time, which is really cool.
yeah.
And kind of,
I'd love to.
yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I've seen Talk to Me. I thought it was really clever. It's, we've seen possession movies, we've seen, ghosts scaring people movies, but this was a really unique take to have it be tied to the social media, because that's kind of getting the word out, right? It's not the reason for it. They want to, like, basically the demons want to make sure the world knows that it gives them power when we know about them existing. But yeah, she did a great job with the scenes where she was, possessed and stuff. It was awesome. Cool. All right, Tommy, what's your number 3? I know we already heard it, but let's hear it again.
Oh, my number 3 is Candyman. Number 3 is
Yes, that's awesome.
Candyman, Tony Todd, the original Candyman. I'm not talking about the remake. I'm talking about the original one that had me, myself, scared to say Candyman in that mirror. To this day, I still won't say it. Because, like Candyman, to me, that was one of the greatest movies. I forget the actress's name, played the lead actress, but I think they played
Virginia Madsen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They played very well off of each other. And like the scenes when like they took it like to when he first became Candyman back in the day, how the picture of her and she was in that picture and stuff like that. It was really wild. And like, I really wish that in Chi-Town, I wish they did not tear Cabrini Green down, because that would be a great place to like go check out. Like, yo, this is where Candyman was filmed at. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And man, that movie freaked me out. That movie, even though I was older,
Mm-hmm.
Tony Todd, this man can make you believe that Candyman was real. You know what I'm saying? It had grown people saying, "I'm not saying Candyman 3 times." You know what I'm saying? Not just kids. He had adults saying
Yeah.
this. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting here, man, Candyman, yeah. Candyman #3, Tony Todd, rest in peace, killed that
Mm-hmm.
role. It's just insane. I love the story too. The story from how he became Candyman and how this dude just keeps taking people out just because they want to be brave and say something. And
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
if words can bring up a demon, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So Candyman is #3 because that movie really freaked me out. Even as an adult, it
Yeah.
freaked me out.
Yeah. For me, I watched it back in 2019 as a part of my October. And then Kristen and I watched it 2 years ago in 2023. We watched it. Yeah. And I haven't seen the remake. I don't even know anything about it, but I've seen the original, and Tony Todd is incredible. And knowing that, he comes up in a lot of other films too, and he gets a little heyday. We're watching through the Final Destination series because there's another one
Oh
coming out
yeah,
this year.
yeah,
And he pops up in the first two, at
yep.
least the first two. I don't know if he pops up anymore, but
You saw?
yeah, yep.
He pops up in a lot of like horror sequels too. Like he
Mhm.
was in Hatchet 2, I believe.
I didn't see that one.
He pops up as Hatchet 2. He's really funny. It's either 2 or 3. I can't remember, but he's like a tour guide in Louisiana, in New Orleans, where um where they tell all the tales and stuff. So he's like a tour guide, and he's like really funny in that role. But yeah, I was very sad because I didn't get it. He was supposed to be at a convention coming up, I think this year, or yeah, it was like coming up soon, and they said that they were going to announce it, but then he passed away. So I
Yeah.
was able to my actually one of my roommates that works with me at the video store years ago. I think this was in California, but he went into I think it was Bojangles, the chicken or
Mhm.
the fast. He was getting food. He was with his family on a road trip or something. He walked into Bojangles and Tony Todd was sitting eating food at the table. So my friend
Wow.
has this
Wow.
picture. He has a picture with him and Tony Todd at like a fast food restaurant, and he showed me that picture, and I was like, "That is so crazy."
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's cool.
well, the story was created by Clive Barker, who made like Hellraiser, and just that guy's mind is. I want to meet him one day, but that mind of his is insane, and all his drawings and stuff. So Candyman is no exception.
Awesome. Cool. All right. My #3 is Us, Jordan Peele's
Ooh.
Us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So this one was just, a follow-up to Get Out, and just the story of a family, and then they end up finding that there's this whole other version of themselves that's kind of like an evil version or a demon version that's locked away, and they're coming for them. They're coming to take their lives, it seems like. I think some of the funniest moments, like he's out with the bat. He's like, "You want to get crazy? Let's get crazy." That's just a funny line, but super impactful, I think, for me. Just the performances are great, super scary. And I think, the idea that there's a version of ourselves that can be evil, or there's this version of ourselves that's not the real version of us that we show everybody else. There's so many different layers that you could go with it,
Ooh,
that
yeah,
that we try and put forth in front of everybody else this thing that's going to be accepted and loved, and,
yeah.
and be viewed as being, culturally acceptable. But there's also this version of us that's like behind closed doors, and we keep locked away. And what if that version came out, and what would that mean to our lives and to the lives around us? But yeah, there's some stuff in that. But Winston Duke, great. Lupita Nyong'o's
Oh
great.
yeah.
Just incredible. I think there's so many funny moments too. Jordan Peele just kind of threw in some funny moments. I think it was when they were trying to call for the cops, and it played NWA's, F the police. So it's just, I think he just, with his second outing, it showed that he's got a real way of connecting these dots from making a horror film, but also somewhat commenting on things that are real. And I think that's POPpaGoss and we've talked about it on sci-fi movies as well, horror movies. It gives you a chance to kind of poke at certain things that are in our reality, but do it in a way that's a little bit foreign, so it gives us a chance to talk about it And if people are paying attention, they can really take something from it that's meaningful. So yeah, so Us is my number 3. So
Sweet.
Speaking of Us, I got this in a mystery box, but Pluto, the kid who played Pluto in Us, I got his autograph on this Funko.
nice. That's
Congrats
awesome.
on that one.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I got this like 2 years ago, I think, but from a company called Mintich Authentics. They
That's
did
cool.
they did a mystery box that was Jordan Peele, Stephen King, and Rob Zombie related. One item for each thing. But yeah, this was the coolest one I got, I think, in the box. But yeah, this was cool. Plus, that trailer still is one of my
Dude,
with that remix of I got 5 on it. That is one of
bro.
my favorite trailer. Like when that trailer came out and that music was like slow, I was like, "Is this a remix of I Got 5 on it?" But yeah, awesome choice.
All right, so I got to say it now then, because I was in a basketball team in high school. I see you got your Jaguars hat on. So I grew
Yes,
up in
I
Jacksonville.
live in Jacksonville. I'm in
Do
Jacksonville
you
right
really?
now.
That's amazing. So
What
next
a
time I'm in
small world.
Jayville,
Do you live in Jacksonville?
I grew up there.
Really?
Yeah. So when my family still lives there, so when I come visit, man, I'm gonna have to hit you up.
Absolutely, man.
What a
For
small
sure.
yeah, what a small
That's
world.
crazy. That's crazy. But I remember being in the locker room before the game and then playing music and it'd be like Tupac and I remember I got 5 on it, man. I was trying to memorize all them words, man, because it was just it was such a great song. And I'm with you too, man. Once it hit when it hit that slow thing and then it felt like the strings also did that screechy horror string sound.
Amazing.
So but
Amazing.
it was I got 5 notes. I mean, it's just like I mean, I think other people have stolen that too, like and used it in other things because it's just
Yeah,
so
when
great.
it in that the strings, like we talked about that on the last podcast, but yeah, like string instruments. We talked about James Wan, how he uses that to like scare people a lot in his music. But like for a trailer, that's perfect because you're trying to get people engaged with going to see it. So like
Hmm.
I thought that trailer was absolute gold.
Yeah,
So good.
absolutely. Totally agree.
Nice. All right. Number 2, POPpaGoss.
So number 2, I am going with one of my all-time favorite movies. I couldn't leave a list without a John Carpenter film, so I am doing The Thing, starring Kurt Russell. So basically, I'm sure many of our listeners know about The Thing, but if you don't, a research team is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that can mimic the victim, so it can basically like look just like them in their human form, but then they're this grotesque alien, almost like a not a squid, but like it just has tentacles and has parts of different people that they've taken over. So like humans, dogs, whatever it is. But this movie, when it first came out, John Carpenter, I actually got to go to the Q&A for The Thing at Texas Frightmare Weekend down in Dallas 2 years ago, and John Carpenter was there, obviously, and he got asked about The Thing a lot because it was a Q&A for The Thing, and he just always talks about how that movie just did not do well at all. Nobody went to see it.
Mhm.
It was actually a remake. He was trying to
Hmm.
do a remake of a thing from outer space, I believe was the original one, and he was trying to do that, but he just for whatever reason couldn't get it off the ground. And then he started gaining traction, so they gave him the option to go do this movie, and they filmed it in Antarctica. Just crazy, winter. Like all the actor, I met a few of the actors that were there for Texas Frightmare, and they all said it was just like freezing cold. It was crazy conditions. You can tell in the movie it's all real.
Hmm.
But what stands out in that movie, the number one thing is the visual effects are hands down, maybe in my world, I think they're the greatest practical effects that have ever been created, other than like Rick Baker's in American Werewolf in London, that transformation scene, because the thing is wild. The first time I saw the thing, I was like, what did I just watch? That was insane. And then I started to grow. My love for John Carpenter started to grow at that time. But we had Dean Cundy was the cinematographer for that movie. He's worked on Back to the Future, Halloween, Romancing the Stone, Apollo 13, Jurassic Park. So real famous guy. The guy who did the score is one of my all-time favorites, Ennio Morricone, who won an Oscar for The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino. Really amazing musician. And then obviously Rob Bottin is the guy who was the main person who did the visual effects, but he worked so hard on that movie and it was such a long shoot for, I think it was almost like a year. He was so tired and exhausted by the end that he had to check himself into a hospital for exhaustion, because he was like, he almost killed himself just working day and night, not sleeping in Antarctica, making all these visual practical effects come to life. And the movie's just not the same without how incredible those visual effects are. Obviously, you got Kurt Russell as the star, amazing. But another reason why I love that movie is Keith David, maybe one of the greatest black actors. I think he's one of my favorites of all time, because he's just got an iconic voice. He's really great in The Thing. I mean, he's not the star of the movie, but a lot of the movie he acts at more of, he takes the lead from Kurt Russell, and they feed off each other very, very well. But yeah, Keith David, and then T.K. Carter played Knowles in the movie as well, another really awesome black actor. But they just, like, as a crew, like, I can't imagine being on that. Like, I would have given anything to be on that set, but it was probably also just insane. But yeah, just Kurt Russell, Keith David working together, and the effects, the movie, my love. You can tell how much that movie had you can see the passion of John Carpenter come out in that movie, and years later become like one of his most beloved movies other than Halloween. But it's just so good. I think Carpenter added the sense of paranoia. I don't know if he did this on purpose, but I knew we were going to sit down and talk about this. I didn't know. I feel like the Wilford Brimley character in that movie is like that old man, like, get off my lawn type character. And he plays it so well. But I think his, like, paranoia side of him in that movie, because everyone's afraid of who could be an alien in that movie. And I think John Carpenter did a great job at developing those characters, so you all, like, each one of them, especially Wilford Brimley, you're like, it makes total sense, because he's terrified. He doesn't trust anyone. He's like the crazy old man in the group. And I just think his banter between him and Kurt Russell and him and Keith David is really good. So The Thing means a lot to me. It's a great movie, and I hope everyone has seen it by now, because it's such a gem. I love it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I knew that it was on my list for a long time, and I kept trying to find it when it was streaming. And finally, last October, we got to watch it, and yeah, blown away. Such a great film. John Carpenter. I mean, he came out the gate with one of the best horror films of all time, and then this one is also up there as one of the greatest horror films of all time. And while it didn't do well starting out, I think it's developed definitely a cult following because of how good it is. I think people just didn't know how to take it at first, you know. Sometimes the greatest films, they don't get appreciated until years later, because people weren't expecting it or didn't know what to make of it and all that stuff. So,
and they just re-released there was a video game for, like, PlayStation 2, I think, called The Thing, and they just, like, recently re-released it. I think just digital only, but that did just come out. They remastered The Thing.
wow.
So pretty cool.
Cool.
Game. I think John Carpenter is a voice in it of one of the guys or something. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Tommy, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warrior.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a great one.
The reason I picked this movie is for 2 actors that are in it. The first one is Ken Seagos. He plays Roland Kincaid. And Roland Kincaid, like, I'm gonna let you know a little something about me that's personal. I've dealt with, like, mental health issues and different things like that. So that movie, I really related to it, like being in an institution, and then you have these people who's having these crazy dreams and stuff like that. And then you have Larry Fishburne, who was also in the movie. Like, a lot of people probably don't even know that Larry Fishburne was even in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3. And, like, he played a really good character who cared about the kids, who wanted them to get well, and he believed them when they said that they were having these dreams and everything like that. And back to Kincaid, to wanting to be that guy who will save everybody. He wanted to be the big tough black dude, you know what I'm saying? And I think he played that part very, very well. I love the way he played it. And I think he was in the 4th one too, if I'm not mistaken. And, like, him to be in both of those movies I think he
Hmm.
held his own with a actor like Larry Fishburne. If you can hold your own in the movie with an actor like that, especially the way Larry Fishburne has like just blew up all over the
Hmm.
stratosphere now. But man, when I saw Larry Fishburne in that movie, I love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I love all of them. But
Yeah.
if I had to pick one that I really, really dug, it would have to be that third one, simply being because of Larry Fishburne and Ken Seagoss. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Nightmare on Elm Street 3. It's hard because like I think that's the one that comes to mind when I think of the Nightmare series more than any others. But then I always revert to, well, the first one was so iconic, and those, the waterbed scene and the her
Mm-hmm.
being strung across the round. I mean, it's hard to put 3 above that. But I think 3 is so fun, and it took the idea that was set up in 1 and did another, like, told it from a different perspective. We've talked about it before about like 2 really jumped a different way, different interpretation of this story by using a kid that's sleepwalking. Freddy can use
Mm-hmm.
him to kill others. I mean, that was a really cool jump
Yeah.
that people weren't expecting. They just thinking another repeat. I think a lot of people see that there's a 7 on the series and they think, oh, they just jumped the shark. Like, no, 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 they're really thoughtful and they're
Yeah.
really trying to tell something different and
Yeah.
unique within this mythology. I think 2 was a really, while it may not be a great movie, it really did something bold, and I appreciate that. But 3, man, the fact that they can jump in together and fight Freddy, I mean, in the dream together,
Yeah. That
that's
was
bonkers,
awesome.
man. That was so great. So great. You got the girl that's doing kung fu and stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, just amazing.
The
Yeah.
tough
Yeah.
guy. You
Great
got the
call out.
guy being the wizard and everything like
Yeah.
that. The movie was great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No,
Just a lot of fun.
what a blast. Yeah. And Dream Warriors is like, when you, if you, I know Sprang and I've talked about this before, but you ask most fans of Nightmare on Elm Street or just horror fans in general, and most of them will tell you that Dream Warriors is probably their favorite, or it's at least their second favorite, only because it's just so well done and it's just so fun and like a great cast, and it's just they all what's more fun than going into the dreams and you have like
Yeah.
special powers and all this stuff, like fighting Freddy Krueger. Like that's the coolest idea.
Yeah, man. It's like a
Amazing.
superhero movie getting a villain, man. It was awesome. I love that movie,
Yeah.
man.
That's great. That's great. My number 2 is Night of the Living Dead.
Nice.
Night of the Living,
Good one.
George A. Romero, 1968.
First zombie film ever.
First zombie film ever. It introduced this genre that has taken off, and now we have 17 different Walking Dead series on TV. We got 28 years later coming in theaters this year. But it started with a white lady that's getting attacked. Her fiance or boyfriend, whatever, gets killed, and then Dwayne Jones comes in and helps her, and they find a place, and he kind of takes charge and just shows this strong person that can just come in and help others and put somebody on screen that's showing that. I think is just really impactful. But I think and the impact of just the zombie movies in general, just the fact that he came up with this. I think I heard, and you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that he'd gotten the idea from um, what was that movie with Will Smith, um, where he's um, where he's the
Oh,
last one on
I
Earth or whatever.
Legend.
I Am Legend. Yeah, he read.
Mm,
I heard that George Romero. It was one of the influences to the story was the I Am Legend novel that he read, and he's like, "What if it was? What if this was the reason? And what if this started happening?" So, but yeah, I mean, it introduced this completely new genre, but it had a strong black lead that really was there to try to help others, save the day, have a plan, keep everything in line. Man, that's just powerful. 1968,
yeah.
1968.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. So that's why it's high on the list. Mine are ranked by the stars, and then I moved that one up just because I think it's the impact of 1968 and that cast is incredible.
Well, and the fact that it started, the zombie genre
Yeah.
basically. Well, I'm sure. I mean, I can't even imagine 1968. That movie comes out, and I know it's black and white, but like, I'm sure people were like, "What?" The people probably lost their minds because like
Mhm.
they seen anything close to what that was. Because this is, I mean, 1968. That's even before we actually had like true horror
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah.
There was no gore. There was like
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't even a thing. Like gore or violence and stuff like that. I mean, there were action movies, I guess you could say, like mob movies and stuff. Yeah, George Romero is I mean, legend in the genre. I'm really sad I didn't get to meet him before he passed, but
Mm.
but yeah, like how cool, like he invented something that lived on. There's been other
Mm-hmm.
iterations, like sequels, long awaited sequels to Night of the Living Dead,
Mm-hmm.
remakes. I mean, I think some of the stuff's really good too, like Dawn of the Dead. I think the original is really great, but like the remake by Zack Snyder is really awesome too, because it introduces new, fresh takes on the zombie genre. So I think zombies are a topic for horror movies that just keeps growing, and they keep finding new ways to make them cool and make them hip, and people like them a lot.
They'll never go away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not at all.
You got to shoot him in the head.
Yeah,
Even when you do that, it's still gonna come at you.
They're still gonna come back. Yeah, I remember when the one with Woody Harrelson, my brain
oh,
going out
zombie.
on me. Zombieland, yeah,
Yeah,
when that one came out and it was like they're running, they can't run. No, this is just a different iteration, a different style, like we're expanding. We want to make it more scary and somebody walking, 5 miles an hour is not very scary. So let's take it up a notch. But yeah, to introduce that, I think, the fact that The Walking Dead is still going is pretty crazy. But I think there's also this thing that happens with zombie films where it's not the zombies that are the scariest part. It's the way that the humans in those stories interact with each other when everything goes to crap. Like what really makes us up and what we really believe comes out. And that means a lot of times it was, holding up with our own people and killing other people that are alive to save ourselves. And it's like, then you've got the group that's trying to, like, no, we're trying to live in this new world. We have to work together to do that if we want to make anything worth saving in the long run. That was one of the big things for Walking Dead. Of course, Night of the Living Dead being that kind of one night kind of phenomenon, but you still get those interactions with them in the house and really yelling and screaming at each other, trying to figure out what they're supposed to do, and you get a lot of personality and character in that too.
Definitely.
it's a
Cool,
good
cool.
one.
All right, we're at the number one.
Number one
POPpaGoss,
spot.
what you
All
got?
right. So for my number one, I went with Jordan Peele's Get Out.
Mine too.
Mine too. That's amazing. That's
Yeah, well,
amazing.
it's kind of crazy because we've had all these movies up to 2017 when Get Out came out, but Get Out is like kind of reestablished the narratives and like how horror movies are, especially like led by a black cast, like how they were going to be made and how they came out, the final product. And I think Get Out just did such a fantastic job. So for all of you who have not seen Get Out, I highly recommend watching it. But basically, a man visits his girlfriend's parents for the first time out in this countryside or whatever.
Rich
uh
man.
yeah,
Rich
rich
parents, yeah.
parents. He's black, his girlfriend is white, and the actually the actress who plays his girlfriend is the daughter of, I forget the reporter, but
He got ousted for yeah. Allison Williams, but
yeah,
is the girl. Yeah.
Matt, what's his name, Matt Williams, or I forget, but the famous guy from like Dateline and all,
Brian Williams, I think.
Brian Williams, yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
So
Brian's daughter?
that's
Yeah.
Brian Williams' daughter, yeah.
A new wrinkle in the brain.
Right. So she's been in a few things. She was on the TV show Girls that was really popular with Lena Dunham and stuff. She's great actress. But yeah, when I found that out, I was like, that's crazy, because and especially in Get Out, she plays this kind of like kooky girl. But basically, they visit her parents for the first time, and then he feels more uneasy as the weekend goes on because all this weird stuff's going on, and then drama unfolds, obviously. But this was a big movie in a lot of ways. So this was the directorial debut of Jordan Peele. We all knew Jordan from Key and Peele, which
Yeah.
had just got when he wrote that movie, had just finished the series. They had 3 seasons, I believe. He was on Mad TV back in the day. That's where I first saw Jordan Peele years ago. I thought Mad TV was great, so funny. But he was on that, so it was kind of, when we heard leading up to it, it was going to be a horror movie directed by Jordan Peele. I remember my brother and I were like, "What?" We're like, that sounds so intriguing. And now it's just like nobody bats an eye. Like Zach Krieger from Whitest Kids You Know, he directed Barbarian, and now he's
Mhm.
doing a Resident Evil movie. So like, funny people have a crazy knack
Yeah.
for doing horror. Jordan Peele had introduced us to what he can do. It earned multiple Academy Award nominations, and Jordan Peele actually won Best Original Screenplay, becoming the first African American to ever win that award, which let that sink in for just a second. Amazing feat. I think that alone, like the night he won that, I remember watching it, and I couldn't even believe that, Jordan Peele of all people was like doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, you created such a cool, like, that's your first film you ever did. That's insane. But that went on to launch his production company, Monkey Paw Productions. He has a very fresh, unique style that he does for his movies. Even the ones that he produces are really one of a kind. And then obviously Daniel Kaluuya, he won, or he didn't win, but he was nominated for Best Actor for that incredible performance. There's a scene in the movie, if you haven't seen it, or if I'm not ruining anything, but it's in the trailer. But Daniel has to sit, he gets hypnotized by the mother of his girlfriend in a chair. The performance in that scene, physical, mentally, whatever, like that is one of the best scenes I've ever seen of being terrified in my whole life. Like the tears without his being like streaming down his face.
And the look on his face.
Yeah.
And it's just a trippy, like I can't imagine what he went through as an actor, like doing that scene, but it's that scene always stands out when I think about Get Out. But even more crazy, I'm going to throw another fact out here for you guys. The Oscars have been going for almost 100 years. I think 96 years. They've only had 55 African American actors or actresses that have been nominated in that 96 years.
What?
And Daniel Kaluuya is one of them, and he's been nominated twice and won one. So from 1929 to now, there's only been 55. But and consider like Denzel, I think he's been nominated 10
A few
times or 8
times, yeah.
only won a couple times, but like just let that sink in for a second, because I saw that stat and I was like, I didn't know it was that low. So yeah, 933 total performances have been nominated, but only 55 were African American.
Wow.
That's
So
crazy.
like that blows my mind. So Get Out was groundbreaking. It made history. The biggest part for me personally is the horror aspect of it, the horror genre. The Oscars and more studios are starting to see like, hey, small budget horror can do really well for us. We can go to the award season, make a good run at it, and now you see a lot of these movies getting nominated. So I think what Jordan Peele was able to do, the performances in the movie, the original screenplay, like it has humor, it's got the drama, it has the kind of like unnerving horror part of it, and all the actors and actresses do such a great job. I think Catherine Keener is in it. She's been around forever. I'm forgetting his name, but I always remember him from Billy Madison. He played the dad in the movie, but
Yeah. Bradley Whitford.
Bradley
Yeah.
Whitford, yeah.
Yeah.
So like it was cool to see him, because I hadn't seen him. He was in Cabin in the Woods, which was really funny, but I hadn't seen him in anything in a long time. So to see him in Get Out was like, and the character he played was pretty bizarre. So it's just super exciting. Like Jordan Peele, broke ground, and now he's got a production company, and he only has a few movies under his belt, but he's working on his next one, and like we're all just eagerly anticipating. But what he did with that film, and watching it for the first time is just crazy. Like, I remember renting it at home, and when it came out, and I'd sat there and watched it, and I was like, that I've never seen a movie like that. I don't think ever. No matter what genre. No, none. Every genre like mixed into one, but I definitely horror. I was like, that was so well made. So that was why it was my number one, because it's history making, it's groundbreaking, and I can't wait to see what Jordan Peele does next.
Absolutely.
Tommy, let's hear from you, bud.
Get Out was my number one also. Josh, summarized pretty much everything well. But the thing that really stuck out to me is the way the actors and the actresses, the way they intermingled with each other. And like the girlfriend, for the example, like she was also nice and sweet and everything like that in the beginning. Then you slowly see this change to her going into this psycho mess with her brother and the rest of her family and all the rest of their friends who want to have this auction to take people's eyes or whatever else that they want to do. And that movie, Jordan Peele, like when I first saw that movie, I was like, wow, bro. I date white women a lot. That would be crazy if something like that happened in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like the hypnotizing thing. Like that freaked me out. Like when he actually fell into the sunken place and
Yeah.
they showed that camera angle with them all the way down and they were all the way up. That priceless, man. That shot right there. I wish I could have a poster of that shot because that shot was just great. Him in the sunken place in the chair, the camera angle from very high, going way down into like wherever he was going. The visual of that, I would love to see that on my wall. And just the way, like I said, the way everybody intermingled with each other, like even Keith Stansfield, the
Yeah.
Yeah.
guy who who
Yep.
like kind of like started to bug out a little bit at the
Yeah.
party. Like he played that like from the beginning when he started in the movie to what he came to when people saw him again in the movie. He was something totally different. And then when that light flashed, he started to remember stuff. And I was like, wow, man, get Jordan just like chef's kiss home run. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
say nothing more about that movie. Jordan
Yeah.
killed it. And for that to be his first film, hey,
Yeah.
Gnarly.
It's
that's like
crazy.
Jordan winning as a rookie in the NBA or something like that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Jordan Peele
Yeah.
killed it with one movie to start all this other stuff that he's done. Jordan is
Yeah.
the man. I mean, period,
Yeah.
hands down. Get Out, number one. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, same here. I think he just did such a masterful job of getting at that psychological horror. And the the, the thing that hit me was that there's, like you mentioned before, this rich white family that think they deserve to have whatever they want at whatever cost, and that everybody that's not like them, or everybody that's they're going to serve them against their will because it's our prerogative, and that type of mindset that has permeated American white culture. This movie put it out there in full force. The fact that the dad is saying, "Oh, I would have voted for Obama a third time if I
Mm-hmm.
could have." On the front, kind of like what we were talking about with us. They're putting this thing out front that says, "No, I'm hip. I'm with it. I'm about diversity. I'm about culture. I'm about let's everybody deserves a seat at the table. Let's
I'm
and
down.
putting that yeah yeah." But then behind closed doors, to be basically auctioning off black men
Yeah.
uh, for the highest bidder, just
And the
like
woman
a
too.
slaver,
And the
and the
woman
woman
too.
and the woman. Yep, yep,
The maid.
maid. Yep.
Mhm.
And then, of course, I mean, this spoiler alert, but the girlfriend, up in the upstairs, he finds that she has like a whole shoebox full
Yeah.
of all of these other men that she's done this with, and it's just that I think that the social commentary, us did it in a certain way, kind of brought this idea of being split between two people. But I think also this one just very clearly put this incredible story forth. And I got to tell you, when the cops pulled up at the end
Oh yeah.
and they're kneeling down, I totally thought that they were just going to get shot. Like I thought that he was going to go there. I'm glad he didn't for the sake of the film. But in the heat of that, all of the stuff that was happening, all the things we were hearing about shootings and stuff like that, and people being treated differently by the cops based on their skin
Mm-hmm.
color. It was like, I thought that would have been a poignant ending, but also one that everybody would have left so depressed,
Yeah.
to have gone through that. But that, I think he did a good job, because I think he knew that's what we were going to be thinking, because the way he set up this in a small town, it's white rich people. They probably have the cops, around their
Yeah.
finger. So we all had that going. And so I think that he did a good job by making the decision he did. But it definitely was on my mind. But
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a crazy good film, man. Crazy good film. So awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys being a part of the podcast. Tommy, thanks so much for jumping on, man.
Hey,
I hope it was okay for you.
yeah, man. I hope I did well, man. I hope I did some
Yeah,
justice.
Yeah, you did.
absolutely.
Tommy.
Yeah, and I know you said you do some live viewings. How do you do that on your YouTube channel?
I actually haven't started yet. I
Okay,
am getting ready to get it started. I'm gonna stream through what was that? Streambird, I think is what it's
Stream,
called. Oh,
okay,
StreamYard. Yeah.
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 StreamYard.
Yeah.
Okay,
Gonna go through there. And what I'm thinking about doing with that to start it off just like talk to people like you, Sprang or Josh, or really anybody, just talking about be it pop culture or be it Funko Pops or collectibles or whatever, just to get to know people and like so people can like get to know me and I can get to know them also. Because in this community, I mean, I've made so many friends just since I started my YouTube channel, and like it's been great. And I would really love to maybe start once a month doing AM live, but if it gets traction, then possibly doing more than once a month.
That'd be awesome. I know it's crazy. Josh and I met at Frightmare, Texas Frightmare. He was there for the conference, and we were just there to see Scream. I took my son, my oldest son. He's the one that saw the Vampires vs. Bronx. Let me get it right this time. This summer, and he actually we watched Shining with him in October. We felt like he was able to appreciate it. I don't think the other kids are old enough yet, or at least in that mental headspace to be able to handle it. But he really loved that. He's been reading through some Stephen King, reading through some Tom Clancy.
That's some good
But
reading.
he was there to see Scream at the showing. We got to meet. Well, I guess we got to see Skeet Ulrich and David Arquette and then Matthew Lillard. They were there for a little Q&A. Got to ask a question in my viewing, so that was kind of cool too.
Awesome.
But that we met Josh just before that, you know, and just got to talking about movies, and that's how we connected. And it's like, well, you want to be on the podcast? Like we're doing it. He's like, yeah, let's do it. And like such good friends, you know, after just a
That's awesome.
happenstance meeting. So I can imagine, you know, being a part of the community and just everybody's been so welcoming and
Yeah.
you know, just connecting. You know, I asked him if he, you know, had some friends that we could maybe reach out to, and here we go, man. I appreciate it. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
absolutely. What's your channel that you can promote it real quick?
My channel is the Popalicious Popheads, and I am on Instagram and on YouTube. I do videos of unboxings. I do like mystery items, things like that. I'm going to start doing more things with like news and different things like that. And also, and I'm kind of dabbling in comic books also. So I may interact with like if I have a pop that goes with the comic, then I'll read the comic and I'll just do like a video about the comic and the pop at the same time, so like people can get an understanding of where that actual figure came from and why it's actually like its figure.
He started getting into customs too. He's been doing Funko Pops and stuff, like decorating them and cool stuff. It's pretty cool.
Very cool. Nice. And POPpaGoss, what you got going on? You got anything to promote?
Yeah, I mean, I just hit 1,000 followers on Instagram a couple days ago, so it's been probably since Instagram came out is when I started. But
Well
like, I,
deserved.
I didn't really heavily get into doing Instagram until probably like I started my channel a couple years ago. So yeah, just doing that. My YouTube channel is starting to kind of hit. I had another 1,000 view video that just dropped a couple weeks ago. It
It's
keeps
awesome.
climbing. I got a couple shorts that came out that have been doing well. So I've just been meeting, networking, meeting a lot of people on Instagram or YouTube. They'll reach out, comment. Still want to maybe do the podcast thing. I know you and I've talked about it before spring, but we'll see if I can get that going. Just because I think it would be a better use of my time if I focused on doing like more something like that rather than doing like a bunch of shorts and stuff that don't get a lot of traction, that don't do me any good. So we'll see. But I got a few shorts coming out next week. Just unboxing some physical media that I got, some steelbook. I think I got a couple of autographs that I got to unbox too in the next couple weeks. Other than that, just kind of hanging out, hoping I can hit up all the. We got a lot of big conventions coming up
Yeah.
in May, June, so
Man, look,
trying to see if I can make it to at least one.
I have got to do something about a convention this year, man, because after I missed out on Collective Con, I've been in mourning and I need to get to a convention like ASAP to be around my people. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I love going to the convention. I've only been to one and I just was mind blown when I went
Hmm.
there. So
Yeah.
I can't wait to hit the next con too. Absolutely. I don't care if it's a big con, little con, a toy show, something.
We're hitting up two this summer. We are gonna get the Dallas Fan Expo. There's too many heavy hitters, man. They dropped
Oh,
the Back to the
huge.
Future cast.
Oh, they're
in
coming
there, but
back.
you got Mr. T, first convention ever, like so many things. So we're gonna hit that up with the kids. They got a family pass so we're gonna do a 1-day family pass, and then Kristen and I are gonna go to Frightmare Fest, so Texas
Primary
Frightmare. So
fun. Yeah.
yeah,
You guys have a blast. I'm hoping I can meet up with you guys at least for 1 day, but I haven't decided. But yeah, it's the best. I love that convention so much.
Man, I wish I still lived in Texas.
dude, it's so crazy, man. I knew he said Florida, and then I saw your Jaguars hat, and I was like, I think he's from Jacksonville. So
Yes, sir.
that's awesome.
Duval County, baby.
Yep. I went to James Weldon Johnson and Stanton College Prep. That's where I went to high school.
Okay, I went to Forest.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good, man.
What a small world.
I
That's
know, it's
Yeah,
crazy. It's
it's a
crazy.
small world, man.
Well, this episode's going to drop tomorrow. I'll tag you guys in the Instagram shares and all that stuff, and then I usually
I'm
try to do
nervous.
like 6 to 7, little snippets throughout the week, but just trying to get it out there, and the little reels, the little clips give people a chance to kind of get to know everybody's personalities and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. We had one go to 14,000 the other day, but that's our only one. So we'll see. We'll see if it kicks off
It's only
anything.
getting
Yeah.
started. It's only the beginning, baby.
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
Those reels are awesome because I mean, on average, at least the ones that you've tagged me in, they get like 300-400, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
500 views, which is great. So like people, they're getting exposure, which is great.
That's
Yep.
awesome. That's really
Yep.
awesome, man. And thank you for letting me do a promo too. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you for being on. I know it was last minute, I appreciate having your perspective on this conversation. I really do. It's, it could have been cool for POPpaGoss and I to talk about it, but, it was a lot better with Tommy involved. So
I appreciate
really
that.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you guys again next time. All right.
All right.
Appreciate it. Bye, y'all.
Later.
Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, just a reminder, you can check out all of our links at bio.site/moviesthatmakeyou. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. But until next time, keep watching movies.